Good evening, everybody, and it's Lilia from Heal Scotland. And with me tonight, I have the goddesses who are making up the lineup for our events in Dalkeith, beautiful Dalkeith Country Park. And our theme this year, we're only doing 2 events this year because we've got a packed start to the year. So our theme this year is Beyond the Visible. Which, as you know, is a big passion of mine. It's so easy to understand what we can see, and it's very difficult to understand what we can't see. Can somebody just check that I have volume, that you can hear me? Is there anybody on? Can you hear me? I'm getting my daughter to just check that before I start yakking on and get into a big flow. I would like to, if somebody can give me a nod that we have volume. Right, okay, awesome. It looks like we have. So, yeah, beyond the visible. I mean, when it comes to healing, we know that a lot of the healing that's happening inside we cannot feel. You know, we just assume it's happening. So there's so much goes on that we can't see. We can't directly feel, and there's the time thing as well, isn't it? How long is it taking? And because the concepts that the mind comes up with, and this is what is so fascinating about healing, is that if you break your leg and you put plaster on it, you just know it's going to get better. But when it comes to anything else inside, there's just this like, is it working? Is it, we just have this lack of trust. And a lot of that is, I think, because we can't feel and we can't see it. So bring me your thoughts on that, Jen.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. So this is, definitely my passion is, understanding intuition or psychic senses or whatever term you want to use for that. Intuition works for me. We all have the capacity to be intuitive. We are all intuitive because we are all energy. So of course we can read, hear, feel, smell, understand energy. And we forget that over time, or it, we don't grow up in cultures or families that either value it or understand it or give language to it. So a lot of, I think, our adult lives are kind of remembering what we already know. And I think if we can demystify the messages of intuition, we can demystify what we're picking up around us. If we can understand the language of how we perceive information through our nervous system, through our physical senses, but also our intuitive senses, we can make sense of the world. And it's not actually as complicated. Well, it's complex, it's interesting, but it's not as dark or weird or strange or foreign as we think that it is. And I think that when we have the capacity to, I think a lot of it, the healing work we do is to calm our nervous systems so that we can be present enough to be with that energy, to receive it, to understand it, to process it and work through it. So I think it's really just kind of that acceptance and understanding of, I am energy. I am an intuitive being. I can actually receive and understand this much easier than I thought. So how do I do this? Not only when I'm on a meditation retreat or doing yoga, but in my real life practical sense, where I'm having a hard conversation, where I'm having a difficult conversation with a partner, I'm having to negotiate buying a car. It's these things that tend to be high stress or difficult, where we then look back and go, oh, I should have done this, or this. So we can do it in real time and really feel aligned and present and centered within ourselves. And for me, that connection with the intuition is our connection with truth. Intuition knows truth. So if we want to be authentic, if we want to be aligned, if we want to be directionally correct, the more we can not even develop and hone the senses, but just open ourselves up to them. It's again less complicated than we think it is. But the more we can do that, then the more we can live in alignment with truth, with authenticity, with who we really are.
Yeah, because we've just been kind of brought up ignoring the information the body's given us and feelings. And now I think what's happened is we've gone the opposite way, whereas like believe every feeling that you have, which we know is also BS. We have a lot of feelings because we're in the past, we're projecting into the future, and the feelings can bring a lot of drama. rather than being able to just let go of the feeling and really tune into the intuition. And if it is your intuition, it's going to get louder, right? And then if it's just a feeling that's passing, like a passing cloud, it will just pass. And then, just exactly as you said there, you're going to get from your communication with whoever it is, you're going to get a result that works for everyone rather than just for you or somebody being right. And that's really one of the big things, isn't it? Do we need to be right? Do we need to justify? So, and obviously, the other thing I bang on about that as well, Jen, is if you're in fight or flight or restore and repair, and we know that if you're, and very often, particularly with women, but not just women, but particularly with women, a lot, especially if they've got a lot of young kids, running a business, got a job, that kind of adrenal response can be on without us even understanding that it is. So you're really being an alchemist when you don't even want to be or need to be, and you're draining yourself of a lot of energy. So we all teach techniques, because that's the thing with everything that we are doing. It's about training people to help themselves rather than teaching them. We help you. Clearly we're passionate and expert in what we do, but you're not an expert if you can't really empower people to do it for themselves. And that's definitely what we're going to be doing. Connie, can I bring you in, because your subject, which is phenomenological, and is gathering a lot of steam. I mean, I first heard about it 20 years ago when I was in Malta, and it didn't draw me in, and it was only when I saw Vida and yourself actually working with it and standing there going, and then standing on a bit of the material and suddenly having this flood of emotion and going, what? You just talk a little bit about, I mean, it's obvious when we're working with ancestors, it's beyond the visible for most of us, isn't it? But would you like to just give, for those who maybe don't know anything about family constellations, a little bit of an intro as to what they can expect when they come to the gathering?
Yes, of course. So as well as using your intuition, like Jen was talking about, we're also working in the subconscious of the mind. So lots of our health concerns come from our genetic patterns and our ancestral traumas that have been passed down through the generations, and we hold in our subconscious. So these are loyalties to our family system that we come in with. Out of the need to belong. So for lots of us, we feel like we have to earn the need to belong, when really it's just like a human birthright. So a lot of these issues come from going into conditioning that isn't yours. And of course, we all have to be conditioned. That's part of being a human. And you have to be conditioned by your family and by society as a whole. But then we can also leave behind what isn't ours and take only what's best for our path or our highest good. So it's a lot to do with belonging. So it works on, for example, if you grew up in a family where you maybe had toxic parents or parents who were always arguing or fighting, you might subconsciously recreate that situation in your own relationships over and over again. And then we get to this question of why. Why do I continuously do this? Why am I continuously slipping into this pattern? And that's where family constellations can actually help, because it goes back through the generations, through that conditioning, through those patterns that keep getting passed down, and it goes to the root of the issue. It finds what the root of that issue is. It also works for things like anxiety, fear of being seen. Why am I afraid to be seen? Well, for a lot of women, it will also be the witch wind. I'm not saying for every woman, but we can go back to the point where your family felt that original source of fear of being seen. So that's how it works for like the unseen and the belonging. There's also, in family constellations, there's also order, which is that everything has an order. What came first, and what came second, came second. So it makes sense, right? Because without your parents, you wouldn't be here. So it's feeling into that order without giving it hierarchy, knowing that everything is equal, everything has a right to belong in that system. So I think that's basically where the beyond visible comes in, because it's not a system that we can particularly see, it's just a universal system that's always been. Everything starts from source and comes down to us, like that's a fact. So if you can go back to source and back to this unconditional love and pure love, what love was originally, and bring that into yourself, basically we can live from this heart-centered space where we're not living from our fears and conditioning and patterns that have been passed down to us.
Well, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And I think, certainly when I was growing up, the idea that you were taking on anything from your parents was like completely alien. Like you're never going to do what you want to, because obviously they're, so much better. So I think it's so obvious. And also, when you get to my age and you watch the generations and you see yourself turning into one of your parents, you see other people, you see the nature versus nurture argument, where you can see the nature, even with kids that haven't been brought up in the same home, you can see the same traits. So, it's obvious there's a lot more information coming in we're coming in with a lot more information than we really ever had any idea about, and how that can obviously affect how you are in the world if you don't feel you belong. And I think,
sorry.
No, carry on.
I was just going to say, I think also the beauty of that is you can see what your parents have been through, why they are the way that they are, why they had to carry these stories, and you can honor that. But it doesn't mean that you have to relive their stories for them. You can pick a new path. Like, you don't have to take their burdens and carry them forward. You can just leave them with them, because they are strong enough to carry their own. And really, it's giving them place to be the big one and carry what's theirs, and allowing you to just take from it the lessons, nothing more, and just move forward with that. So it's also about the honouring, because often we can get caught up in the rebellion, like, I don't want to be anything like my parents, they done this and it was wrong and this was bad. And also there's so much judgment in there that when we actually exclude and push that away, we tend to bring it in more, and it becomes a bigger part in our family, and can also cause health issues and mental health issues, and so on. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, what the three of us are looking at is we're talking about sort of letting go of all the concepts, the labels, the past, the stories, and what we've taken on, and it's so that we can face forward with all the courage and the openness and the love and peace that we want to. So it's just different ways of coming at it, and that's what I love about family constellations as well, is that the role play in particular is so powerful, because if it's you that's having the constellation done, you've just got to watch it play out, so your conscious mind can't get involved. And I think it's same with a lot of the stuff that you do, Jen. It just goes right past the conscious mind. Whereas sometimes with some of the techniques I teach, I can see what needs to happen, but you have to wait until the person feels it and releases enough to let it go. Whereas there's other ways of getting in. And that's what's so brilliant about teaming up with, goddesses like yourselves, and then having a full day immersed, because we're all we're giving people stuff to take home, to practice, to learn. Both of you do lots of really great online stuff, I know, and you're both in the East Coast, which is nice because we do so much in the West. So people can really, because that's what we're needing now is, the knowledge is not enough. We need to do the practice. We want to be free, or you want to be fit, you have to put that work in, regardless of what it is you're trying to do. The way you get good at it is practicing it. So what I'm going to be doing is going to be obviously teaching to let go, which is a bit of a no-brainer, and breath work, obviously, which is such a good way in for letting go, because you're putting people into that much more expanded I can state. It is possible. and then really going in deep with different release techniques. So Jen and I are going to be there in the morning with our workshops, and then in the afternoon we're going to come back with other, and just repeating the techniques over, making sure by the time that you get home you really have got that right, okay, the understanding, because it's just shifting the perception, isn't it, from, and also really staying in touch with what's happening in the body as everything starts to dissolve and change and the energy moves, because we're working in the electromagnetic field. So for me, that's the big shift, is to, instead of looking out there, it's like feeling inside. What can you feel? So when I'm got a retreat, my wild medicine retreat this week, and I always show them the kind of energy system with the chakra system and the aura, etc., and the Taurian field, so to try and help people get a visual, because it is helpful, I think, if you can see what it perhaps looks like, and then you can start to really visualize when you start to actually feel the energy moving, which may take a bit of time. You know, if you've never done any of this work, I know when I started, I was like, I just didn't think anything happened below my neck. It was just like I was always in the head. And now it's very much, you know, I'm always in here, like just seeing what's been said. And I mean, I still do something I know I'm not supposed to. I try and figure it out. You know, I'm like, what is that feeling? Is it intuition? Last week, I just, that feeling of what was grief. But then is it dread? Is my body trying to tell me something? Because the mind wants to go there, doesn't it? It's like, wants to guess, because we like to know. And as Joe Dispenza says, get very comfortable with the unknown. Because I think this whole shift that we're all going through, and I don't think there's anybody that's not feeling it right now, maybe not fully recognizing that the chaos, we're all kind of like, right, let's hold on and enjoy the ride. That these techniques, I often think, how do people that don't know how to do these things survive? And I think especially most of us have got familial stuff going on where you're just like that. So if we cannot live in peace and harmony with our families, with our workmates, our colleagues, how on earth can we be preaching about world peace? You know, so I think we really have to do that. It has to start at home, hasn't it? It's got to start within us. If we're getting irritated and annoyed and angry at other people, it's time to go in and do the work. What's your take on that one, Jen?
Yeah, my theme this year has been a lot around that. Just the idea of, no matter what is happening in the storm, I want to know I'm okay, and that I can feel all the things. I can be all the things, but I'm okay, and I can just be present within that. Yeah, and I agree. I think the first step to world peace is creating peace within ourselves, because if we're peaceful within, then that's the energy we're projecting, that's the energy that we're sharing, and it helps other people recognize it's possible, and it helps them to settle into that peaceful state too. So if we can be, my goal is always, I don't always do it, I promise, but my goal is always to be the presence of peace in any room or any situation. So that's what I go in with. But yeah, I think it's that thing of when we feel more stressed, more triggered, when there are, things going on in our lives that are, more than what the normal daily human stress level is. It's kind of being able to find that presence to say, okay, I recognize what is going on within myself. Either what can I do about it now, or what can I do for myself that's going to help me be in a state of centeredness and alignment, so that I can just, in a mature and wise way, deal with whatever is being created in this moment, and then choose what to do about that, choose the way I want to respond in a way that's meaningful and helpful and healthy. So I think that's a lesson that we come back to over and over and over again. We get better and better at it the more we practice it. It's a goal.
And then you just think, I'm really getting on top of this, and then something happens and boom.
Like, oh, you think you got it now? Here's the next level.
I like, how did you phrase that there? Something about being the peace in the room,
being the presence of peace. Yeah,
being the presence of peace. I like that. Yeah, because that, I think that's just always a challenge, isn't it? And it's easy when you're just with your friends to be really zen and funny and everything's cool, and they slag you and you laugh back and you slag each other back. Then you move into your house, somebody else in your family can say exactly the same thing, and you just like flip. But I think the recognizing of that is one thing as well, isn't it? It's as always, the awareness of what. Connie, you want to bring in how family constellations impacts from that perspective?
I would agree with Jen in the fact that change can only come from within. So what family constellations, when we're working energetically, yes, we're working with the energy of your family system, but we're also working primarily with your energy, because you're 50% of your mother, 50% of your father, and the energy ripples out back to source from there. So basically, when we change our perspective and how we see things, then the energy can change between our relationships, because we're coming at that relationship from a different angle, from a new perspective, from a place of higher sight, really, where we're no longer triggered by what the issue is, because we know what's behind it. We know that they're also just human, trying to do human things, going about their human lives, and that they also have this story that they're carrying that maybe they can't see bigger perspectives, but it allows you to see it. So I think, all transformational work can really only come from within yourself. And it's also, I would say, radical inclusion. So yes, it's lovely to always be heart-centered, but we do have a mind, and we do have an ego, and we do have all these parts that need to be seen and need to be included. It doesn't mean that we always have to act from heart or head. Maybe it's the connection between both. But so for me, like, this inner peace and calm really comes from just being able to witness all these emotions, all these thoughts within yourself, and maybe not have to act on them all the time, just to know that they're there and that's enough. Really bringing acknowledgement to where you are currently, and knowing it's okay to be there, no matter if it's bad or good. It doesn't really matter. It's just where you are, and that acknowledgement really brings a sense of peace for me and calm.
Yeah, and I think we all agree, that we have to go into subconscious, don't we? We just have to.
Yeah.
The hard drive of the computer, it's where all the old files are stored, and it's where there's a lot of energy vibrating and sending out information from there. And I know, certainly in my own personal experience with kinesiology, when the kinesiologist said to me, "What on earth happened when you were 32?" And I had a few major things had happened then, but I could talk about them without any tears, without any pain. So therefore, I thought I didn't realize that my body was still holding these huge events, but it was. So again, it's like that elastic band that's been around your hand all day. You're not feeling it anymore, but it's still there. And that's, I think, we can eat well, we can, forest bathe, we can do our breath work. But that's only kind of surface, really, a lot of the time. Certainly from my experience, we really need to get in with these techniques to really get that complete change, and to make the rewiring of the brain, because it is all about change and shifting perception, and then repeating, catching yourself with the negative thinking, or the complaining, or the blaming, or shaming, and then flipping it round into a different language. All of that takes a bit of awareness and a bit of time. But then that becomes much easier and more effortless when you really have just deleted the old reactions from the hard drive. So, I think that's why I've always wanted the Goddess Gatherings to be about that, so that people can leave at the end of the day feeling different. And then with these tools that they can practice with their friends that they come with, or whatever, and really start to feel the sense of lightness and freedom that we've all experienced from the things that we teach, and that we're obviously so passionate about. So have you got anything else you would like to say before we finish off? Because we're just on for another 5. Jen, have you got a wee Few words of
Yeah,
wisdom.
I mean, I'll share a little bit more. I mean, I'm still kind of channeling and meditating on the whole everything that I'm going to do for it. But I'm wanting it to be different than what people may have experienced with me in the past if you've come to a goddess gathering, etc. So what I keep getting for this, and what I've been working on a lot lately for myself, as well as this idea of a new energy signature. And the idea is that we're always going to shift and change in our energy field and vibration and things like that. So it feels more of a kind of moving into what is for now and the near future, and releasing just some of these old loops and karmic patterns that we're in. So just getting really clear on what's included within that, and focusing on the state of intuition, and how do we use our intuition to not only understand it, but to create it as well, so that your life, what you're created in your life, helps to reinforce and create that. So it's this idea of you create yourself as you create your life and the circumstances that shape you. Kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But yeah, so kind of some of these themes that we're going to play with. So again, I'm still receiving that. I'm still shaping it, but that feels very strongly one of the themes of that. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
Awesome. I'm excited too. I love that when it moves on and it evolves every year. It's just fantastic. Connie, what about you?
Likewise, I'm not entirely sure what I will be doing yet. I'll probably leave it also up to my intuition closer to the day, but I think we'll probably be working with parents primarily, because really that's your closest trigger coming into this life is your parents. And then from there, once you've worked with your parents, you can go further back and look at issues that are further back in your family, and even from there, your past lives or whatever. Anything that has a system can basically be looked at in family constellations. But yeah, so for the day, I think I'll be looking at family, maybe taking our place as the little one, as the child from our parents, allowing our parents to be the big one, potentially handing back what no longer serves us and what we carry out of loyalty to them. So when we talk about loyalty, when we're born into our parents, when we're born to our parents, we often carry these hidden loyalties that we act out in order to survive. So if you think about back to old tribe times, where there'd be a tight-knit community, a tight-knit tribe, if you didn't conform with that community and tribe, basically you were cast out, and that was the end of your survival. So we have these loyalties that we still come in with in order for our parents to love us, in order for us to grow up and not get cast out from our families or society. So, but often those kind of loyalties actually no longer serve us in modern times. They're just a genetic throwback to what initially being a human was, that we actually have moved past now. So maybe looking at something like that about what it is we do to belong, and how we can just know that it's okay to belong without fighting for it or having to push our ideas or anything else onto other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from my perspective with the Sedona method, it's approval and disapproval, and how we do that. Thanks, Rachel. That's lovely. Great live. Thank you, ladies. Your session sounds amazing, Connie. Yeah, so I'm going to be doing the same, just really digging in and looking at these, what are you wishing was different? Are you trying to figure things out? Are you taking things personally? Are you waiting for things to change or somebody to change so that you can be happy? These things that we do is control, security, approval, separation, oneness. So all the things that we know, and there's nothing wrong with having any of these things, but it's just when we're putting out that we don't have it, we don't have it, we don't have it, when we obviously do. And a lot of that behavior, we just don't even realize we're doing it. So it's just that reminder again. It's like, what language are we using? Are we saying what we want, or are we continuously saying what we don't want? So again, accessing consciousness. The Sedona method will be in there. We'll see what we've got time for. Hi, Lorraine. Great stuff. I look forward to seeing you. So yeah, so we still have some tickets. I think there's maybe just a couple left for the Saturday. I'm not even sure if there is. There's a few for the Sunday as well. So if you like the sound of what we are doing, it'd be fantastic to see you at that stunning park. I'm excited to see you guys there too, and to share this wonderful message. So if you're watching this on replay and you've got any questions or anything, please feel free to pop it in and one of us will answer it. But the best thing you can do is come along and meet us and do the practices and get in and feel the difference, feel how much lighter, how much space, and how life starts to become a lot more potential filled. So, well, thank you, girls. It's lovely to see you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I will chat to you all soon.
Mm-hmm.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Ciao.